Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media, St. Louis's home for arts, education, and culture.
We can reduce levels of anxiety, depression.
That bond had lasted. Even though we couldn't physically see it, it was still very much there.
True happiness only happens when you're creating something.
Today on Spotlight, celebrating photographers that have propelled the industry forward. Meet last year's best. Plus, inside the new multi-sensory studio designed to help kids engage in the world around them. And then how a local hospital helps its patients take care of their pets. But first, a critically acclaimed author talks about her powerful crime series full of mysteries. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
Fans of crime novels love to figure out the whodunit. Crime writers enjoy taking them to that final aha. Author Asma Zahanat Khan is no different. Her first love is writing, with nearly a dozen books in her combined mystery and fantasy series. And now, Blackwater Falls, Khan's debut novel in her newest crime series she's calling The States. But she brings another expertise to her stories as a lawyer specializing in international law.
It's work that I'm passionate about. So in legal practice, my work was in immigration and refugee law. So I'd be representing people from around the globe who put their entire life savings and hopes in your hands in the hope of coming to a new country and establishing a better life for themselves.
Before her novels, as editor-in-chief of Muslim Girl magazine, Khan achieved notoriety for championing her Muslim roots and giving a voice to young women in particular.
I find when I go to book talks or do library events or do press that people are generally just very curious and ask me a lot of questions, and I find that people are always very receptive to me, very open to dialogue and communication.
Khan keeps women front and center in Blackwater Falls as two female detectives in a small Colorado town investigate a heinous crime involving racial tensions and corruption.
I don't want to say that I write message books because I don't want my books to be preachy or didactic, but I think it's an important platform and I have a voice and I should use it for something worthwhile. So it's not purely entertainment. Entertainment is definitely one function of what I do, but I want it to move to that next level where people's hearts and minds, compassion, sympathies, intellect, they're all engaged by the work that I do.
So what is your goal by bringing that, addressing Muslim girls? There's a theme throughout all your writings. What is your goal with all of this? Is it just to educate, simply that, or is it more?
I think there's more to it than that. Education, if it comes as a result of the work that I do, that's fantastic. I'm always happy about that and aiming for that. It's work that I'm passionate about. But for me, I think it's really twofold. Part of it is a speaking back, because we've seen in the political discourse and in the popular culture a specific narrative about Muslim identity, and it's generally perceived to be threatening. It's usually associated with terrorism or other barbaric acts around the globe. Right. And it doesn't authentically represent who Muslims are as a global faith community. So when you write about your own communities and your own experience authentically from the inside, you're able to speak back and challenge that dominant narrative that assigns collective blame or collective guilt to an entire community. And then the other part is about representation, about being able to tell stories that you know that you don't see often in the mainstream and that you find enlightening or inspiring or celebratory, and being able to share that with an audience, something they may not have seen before.
Let's talk about Blackwater Falls.
All right. So it's a crime novel, and it's set in a small town in Colorado, like a backcountry mountain town almost. And it features a trio of women investigators who are investigating the murder of a teenage refugee from Syria, a STAR student her body is found pinned to the door of the mosque. So that much is not spoilery, because that's on the jacket flap, and it's the basic premise of the story. And the 3 women who come in to investigate her murder, 2 of them are police detectives, and they come from a unit called the Community Response Unit, which is designed to address confrontations between law enforcement and minority communities who feel or who are over-policed or over-targeted. And the 3rd member of their trio is a Black woman. She's a civil rights attorney, and her job in the story is to speak up for Black communities who have been over-policed by the small and corrupt sheriff's department in Blackwater Falls. So the Community Response Unit comes from outside to say, the sheriff hasn't been handling these complaints or these issues well, we're going to take over now, we're going to be responsive to the community's needs.
To hear more about how the stories she did research on in grad school helped her create her first successful book, watch the full interview at hecmedia.org.
First person, real world, expert driven. That's the focus of the videos, lesson plans, and activity ideas you'll find at our educational website, educate.today.
We're here at the International Photography Hall of Fame in Grand Center, St. Louis, Missouri, where we are currently showing the 2022 Hall of Fame Induction Exhibition, featuring photographers from the 2022 class of Hall of Fame inductees and awardees. The International Photography Hall of Fame has been in existence for over 60 years, and our mission is to celebrate the photographers and the photography that they created. We showcase the images that have changed the medium and propelled the industry forward. This year we're very excited about the 2022 inductees that have joined the Hall of Fame class. Edward Bertinsky is regarded as one of the world's most accomplished contemporary photographers. His remarkable photographic depictions of the global industrial landscape represent over 40 years of his dedication to bearing witness to the impact of humans on the planet. The photography of Chester Higgins portrays the dignity of the African American and African diaspora communities, and this work has brought Higgins all over the world, and to Africa in particular, many times. And as we move on, the photography of Graciela Iturbide explored and investigated her native country of Mexico. Through black and white photographs of landscapes and their inhabitants, abstract compositions, and self-portraits. Helen Levitt is one of the pioneers of street photography. Her playful and poetic photographs have consistently reflected her poetic vision, humor, and inventiveness as much as they've honestly portrayed her subjects. Men, women, children, acting out the daily drama on sidewalks and stoops of their New York apartments. And then we have Danny Lyon. He's one of the most influential documentary photographers of the post-war generation. Danny Lyon forged a new style of documentary photography described in literary circles as new journalism, which is an unconventional, personal form of documentary in which the photographer himself is immersed in the subject's world. Ethereal and elegant, Sarah Moon's photographs are almost abstract in their painterly qualities. Texture, surface, seeing, believing, and dreaming. It is difficult to summarize their content without pointing to the evident romantic and melancholic mood that emanates from the work. In addition to the 5 Hall of Fame inductees, IPHF also awarded a leadership award to the Association of International Photography Art Dealers, or APAD. APAD is an organization dedicated to creating and maintaining high standards in the business of exhibiting, buying, and selling photographs as art. And our Visionary Award recipient this year is Kyle Huber. He is a visual artist and obsessive creator living in Los Angeles. He combines his passion for art with his love for the outdoors and images that play with symmetry and scale to create colorful and clever compositions. We hope you come out and enjoy the work of the 2022 Hall of Fame induction class. The exhibition continues until February 11th at the International Photography Hall of Fame, and you can find out more information at iphf.org.
HEC Media. Recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. HEC Media has been bringing home the hardware for over a decade. Arts and education to author talks, magazine shows and documentaries, individual craft achievements to overall excellence. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
We can step on it this way. We're in our brand new sensory studio within the JCC building here in Creve Coeur that is designed specifically to be an outlet for individuals with sensory processing challenges. We serve a lot of folks, young adults and kids, and even older adults that have different processing challenges. The best example I have of what sensory processing disorder is it's a disconnect within the brain. When you have sensory processing challenges, stimuli can wreak havoc in the brain. The easiest example is loud noise. A typically developing brain could decipher through, that's a loud noise, I don't need to be alarmed, that's okay. For someone with sensory processing challenges, that could come across as the most awful shriek, shrill, and invoke anxiety, anger, and ultimately lead to things that are not conducive for a group setting. This room, how it's designed, is for us to identify those folks who are having a sensory processing challenge and to utilize the tools that are in here to help them quiet the chaos and be able to navigate back through their environment. If they're needing some of that, deep pressure, we have weighted blankets for that. If they just need a quiet place to lay down for a little bit and relax, we have the crash mats for that. We have the comfy sack, the giant beanbag for that. If it's loud noises or bright lights or just too much commotion, we're gonna turn on 1, 2, maybe a few things, but whatever it is that engages that particular individual, it might be the bubble tubes, it might be the swing. But we try to focus just on those items and let them kind of explore by having that control again of what they're gonna engage in. They then have control of what's happening in their environment, and it helps them come back down to baseline. Our space is designed specifically to be multi-generational, from little bitty kids like infants all the way up to 110.
The Adult Day Center at the J actually serves 2 different populations. We have the senior program.
Oh, this is nice. Wow.
Called the Connections Group. They are primarily 60s and older. You will have people with Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, history of stroke, various cognitive impairments. We also serve the IN program, which is a young folks 20s and 30s with developmental disabilities that are trying to work on some of those independent skills.
We use this room to help children who, although small, sometimes have really big feelings, regulate those feelings so that they're manageable.
We can see a person who's in that moment of agitation. We can say, hey, let's go to the sensory room. Let's calm down. What do you need? We're seeing them then be able to identify, I'm feeling this, I need this. As they go out in the community and they're with their families, they're better able to recognize what those emotions are and kind of what they either need to take away or add in that moment to keep themselves from getting to this crisis level.
It's also not just an emotional thing. There's some kids who have sensory needs. We can come in here and we can swing. There's some kids who need quiet, or the lights turned down, or they need something to stimulate them visually. And we can come in here and find an answer to those needs. Once they've calmed down, the sensory room has helped them get back to themselves, then they're able to just go back into the classroom and take up where they left off before the feelings got so big.
In the afternoon with our seniors, especially as we get into winter time, it's going to be a big challenge as it starts getting dark sooner. They start thinking that it is 7 o'clock at night, they should be home. They're anxious, they're wandering, they don't understand why they're here, where they are, where's their family. There's only so much redirection that we can do. Now having the sensory room and being able to bring them into this completely different environment, offer the lights, offer the videos and the sing-alongs and things that are going to spark some reminiscent activities for them that we can talk about. They completely are able to forget what they were anxious about.
It's not a new concept, right? Like using sensory integration therapy or techniques. It's very much been in practice for decades. Having different avenues to kind of tap into in a space like this, it coincides with what the research shows us, is that we can reduce levels of anxiety, depression, increase levels of engagement, an overall sense of, well-being for that same age range of 2 to 102.
Scan the QR code on your screen to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
The day that I met him, he was so sad. He had lost his owner, who he had lived with for, since he was a puppy. And, these animals have feelings just like we do. And he was grieving.
Max belonged to a Mercy hospice patient who died. That's when Tracy Rumpf adopted him.
We adopted him when he was 13, and he passed away right before he was to turn 16.
Max was the perfect companion for Tracy because of her passion to help aging pets. Tracy is the founder of Second Chance Ranch for dogs who need that second chance because of their age and health.
A senior home for senior dogs.
Second Chance Ranch cares for older dogs and tries to find them homes. Tracy's mission aligns with a special program through Mercy Hospice, which is part of the Mercy healthcare system. The program is called Mercy Pet Peace of Mind.
Hospice treats the entire family unit, and we believe that pets are family. And often something that weighs heavy on our hospice patients is what's going to happen to their pet after they pass. So we help with that. We help, if there's a financial need, we will help with food and grooming and veterinary care and boarding while they're here. And then we also assure them if there's not a place for their pet to go, we will find a loving forever home so they know that their pet will be taken care of after they're gone.
The hospice team at Mercy is keeping dogs, cats, and people together as long as they can through the end-of-life transition. For a hospice patient, the companionship of a pet can add comfort, unconditional love, and give hope. So Mercy Hospice became a Pet Peace of Mind partner in 2019. And in 2022, Mercy Hospice turned the St. Louis program into an award-winning program receiving national recognition among Pet Peace of Mind partners. The true stories behind the recognition are at the heart of the work they do.
The patient got to a point where she was no longer able to care for this pet. We did find this dog a home. About 6 months later, found out that the dog had unexpectedly passed. It was very sudden. The dog was taking a walk and had some sort of GI issue. Kind of heard through the medical grapevine a few days later that the original owner had passed. And when I was able to find out the date of passing, it turns out the dog and the owner died very quickly on the same day, and had been separated for 6 months at this point. So there was certainly that bond had lasted. Even though we couldn't physically see it, it was still very much there. It's almost like she called her dog home to her. It was unbelievable.
And there's the cat on the lap story about a cat in need of a home after her owner, a Mercy Hospice patient, died. She would snuggle with him on his lap. But Mercy Hospice found a new lap belonging to a man who deeply missed his cat that died.
He lost his cat that was only sat on his lap. She found a new lap, and it was the perfect one.
And there's the story about Max. Tracy says he deserved his second chance. She says he may not have been the perfect Chihuahua for some people, but for her, he was truly special.
Loved men more than he loved women. So although I fed him and took care of him, I couldn't always hold him, but he adored my 2 boys who were still at home and my husband. He could not get enough of them.
The stories shared between families who lost loved ones and need homes for pets are all about love and mercy.
I just saw his little eyes. I saw how sad he was, and I realized how much he needed another family. The minute that I introduced him to my boys and he just lit up, I knew that he was going to have a great life with us for, whatever life he had left.
Meet a talented music teacher later on Spotlight.
So we're at Houska Gallery in the Central West End. This is our annual winter group show. It's titled 45. There's actually 47 different artists. This show is very exciting for us because it is the first time we have done an open call. In the past, we have done invite only for our group show, so we have the opportunity here to see many artists who have shown at Houska in the past and many more new fresh faces. This is the biggest exhibit we have ever had at Houska. Very impressive. We have, like I said, 47 different artists, and each of them have between 1 and 5 pieces in the show. So our open call was for all types of medium, all different types of artwork. And some people don't know this, but Charlie Houska is known for his salon style. So we decided to go maximal with this show. When you walk in, you will see 2 gallery walls that represent one piece from each of the 47 artists, basically hung from floor to ceiling. So this is a style that Charlie was famous for, and we brought it back with the 45 group show. As you move through the gallery and down to the lower level, we have our featured artist, Tiff J. Sutton's photography exhibit. This show is titled Black Ice, and it's a series of landscape portraiture, self-portraiture that she took on a recent residency in Iceland. She is an award-winning photographer who has mainly focused on the Black experience, particularly in photographing women and her family. This body of work is extremely exciting because she focuses on her own personal narrative. The show overall shows the comfortability that she experienced being on this solo journey, going through her own process of discovery and capturing herself in the landscape of Iceland. So both of these exhibitions here at Houska fulfill our mission of bringing art to the community. It's a way for collectors and for people who are interested in art to find out what local artists are up to, what they're making, and to see this work in their neighborhoods and in a beautiful gallery setting. Both of these exhibitions will run through January 28th of 2023, and for more information, you can check out our website at houskagallery.com.
Well, I think most people, when you first say the Battle of St. Louis or the Battle of Fort San Carlos, think it must have been an American Civil War battle. They come up to me afterwards and say, I never heard of this before.
We like to say that they saved the future of the United States.
Ignacio La Rosa, Devon Kerr, Pedro de Hetra, Fernando de Leyva, he was the commandant.
If you look at the history books today, the American history books, there's not a mention of it. Most people that would go to a ball game would have no idea that that's where the tower or the battle was fought. You continuously find new things. Part of the challenge is that some of the particularly like the Spanish archives, they are not organized in a sense to make research easy. Sometimes you find things that are in places you would have never expected. This is where we came from. This is how our area developed, and it is important to understand. How did this town come about? Why did it survive? What part did it play? And it turned out to be a pretty major part in the American Revolution.
For Leyva saying, you know what, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to defend this place. That took some chutzpah.
HEC Media's House of Thunder documentary is now available on History Fix. Visit historyfix.com and use promo code HEC9MO for a 7-day free trial and 10% off a year-long subscription.
HEC Films. Explore, inspire, educate, and entertain. HEC Films, just one of the many facets of award-winning content you'll find at hecmedia.org.
I'm Gary Gackstetter. I teach here at St. Louis Community College, Merrimack. I conduct the orchestra and the symphonic band. My dad was a real amateur musician and played a lot of different instruments. One minute he would be playing the Carter Family, and the next minute he'd be playing Dvorak's New World Symphony. And my mother loved big band music, so I started playing trombone when I was in the 6th grade, and that's when it took off for me. I knew I was going to be a music teacher. And then I started playing guitar when I was an adult, and that was a really great addiction. And I just started writing my own songs and put some groups together. I am a conductor, but I do a lot of composition. And over the years, that has really accumulated to where they're being played all over the place. And I never feel more alive than when I'm on the podium. You know, it's just a wonderful feeling. Along with being a composer and a musician and teacher, I am also an artist. I was always trying to keep up with my older sister, and she could draw better than me. I wanted to be a cartoonist for a long time. Then my sister got me a pen and ink set, a dip pen where you dip the crow quill pen in ink. And I got pretty serious about it, and every drawing I do is a new level, something I haven't ever tried before, something I'm trying to accomplish that I need to learn how. I'm self-taught, so I have to invent my own ways of going on, and that's been a real challenge and a real joy. I never draw without listening to music, and it affects the way I draw. I have to get into a very meditative state to concentrate for long periods of time on drawing. All of the symphonies I've written combine the arts, so the lines are very blurry with me. Art is music, music is art. They're fingers of the same hand. Music and art don't come from virgin birth, you know. They have to be inspired by something that gets you to go to someplace you've never been before. To me, if I do the same thing over and over again, I get in a rut, and that's not inspiring to me. I've taught the same classes for a long time, but every day I walk into that classroom, it's a different classroom. It's never the same. That's why I love teaching. That's what challenges me, to rise to that level every day. Every word I say, every action I do, every time I conduct, I want to be at that level. I want to be remembered as being passionately creative. I think true happiness only happens when you're creating something.
Next week, the epic story of African Americans fighting in World War II. Plus, civil rights icon Dr. Melba Patillo Beals. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.